Take a seat.
I'm not really sure how we would prove there's a soulmate or not, but I have to say that for much of my adult life, I was a little jaded about the soulmate idea and a little skeptical, and here's why. Because so often I would have people tell me I have met my soulmate when they've only known the person for like 3 months. And I have to tell you, when you fall in love or you're under the influence of infatuation, everybody feels like a soulmate the first 3 months. You know. In fact, I do a lot of writing, and people write in questions, and then I answer them in columns in magazines. And I remember this one woman wrote in, and she said, I knew where the question was going because her opening line was, "I love my husband to death, but," you know. So when they say, "Oh, I love him, but," you know something is coming. And she said, "I love my husband to death, but 3 months ago I took up scuba diving, and I've fallen madly in love with my scuba diver instructor, and he and I are soulmates." Now, she was married 13 years, and she knows this guy 3 months, and he's her soulmate. And I've heard that type of use of the soulmate for over so many times that has made me quite skeptical. And I often say the one criteria for a soulmate is time. You know, if you're with somebody and 10 years later you tell me this is my soulmate, honey, I'll sign my name to it. You know, I'll believe you. But everybody feels like a soulmate in the beginning. The other reason why I've often been skeptical is because it's been my experience that somebody says, "I want to find my soulmate." What they usually mean is, "I want to find someone who'll love me just the way I am and do everything I want, and I'll never have to work at it, and we'll be happily ever after." You know, that's sort of what they mean, you know, which gives it a very much an air of disbelief and incredibility. But recently, I've come up with a criteria. And I think that if a person will meet these 3 criteria, and you can maintain this over time, then to me, this is a soulmate. And I want to give you the 3 criteria, and then I want to show you a clip from a movie scene that I think sort of illustrates this in a very practical way. The first criteria is presence. And that means when you're with this individual, they really pay attention to you. They're interested in you. They listen. They take part in the conversation. When you touch him, he feels it. When you put out your hand, she takes it. That this is somebody that's in tune with you. Because somebody mentioned it earlier, how so often if you're talking to somebody, it's almost like they're watching a movie in their head. They're not, you know, a lot of people carry on a conversation in what I call the shoot, reload method. You know, I shoot my line or my thoughts, and while you're shooting your thoughts, I'm reloading my thought. You know, so it's like I tell you what I think, but when you're talking, I'm not listening. I'm already making up my next line. So I'm much more in tune with the movie in my head or my own thoughts than I am in tune with you. You know, when 2 people fall in love, the good thing about infatuation is it really gives you a snapshot of what mature love can be like if you're mindful, if you're conscious, if you're tuned into each other. And tuning in is the essence of love. You have to be interested enough in somebody because love is the wish to make the other person happy. You know you're in love when you really, really hope and wish and long for your partner to be happy, and that your partner's happiness is what makes you happy, and that you take pleasure in granting that happiness and being a part of making that person happy. So the prerequisite for all of this is what we call attunement, or tuning in, or paying attention, or just when you're talking to someone, to really look at them and to really hear them. And if you check out, if your mind, wanders or it goes blank or you forget, then don't be afraid to say, "Would you say that again? I'm interested." Because so often in our busy, busy world, it's hard to stay focused on just one thing. You've got your cell phone and your BlackBerry and all these messages coming in constantly, and you will never, ever have those magic moments with another person unless you're tuned in. And this magic, these moments that will move you to tears, these moments that will give you goosebumps up your legs, or butterflies in your stomach, those moments happen when you're really tuned into each other. You're really tuned into each other. Let me tell you a true story that illustrates this. This is a true story of a couple, two friends of mine, who've now been married many, many, many years. But in the beginning of their marriage, it was really rough. In fact, they came very close to getting a divorce. And the biggest issue was that Sunny, my girlfriend Sunny, was just so disappointed in Mark, her husband, as a partner. She just felt like she pretty much had given up on getting him to love her in the way she wanted him to love her. And she was very successful in her career, and he was very successful. He's a psychiatrist. She's a very successful therapist. And their children they have wonderful children. And, their family life was good. Their career life was good. But she was so disappointed in Mark as a husband. And, of course, he just felt defeated. He felt like he could never please her. The one thing they had in common was the movies. They liked to go to the movies. They still like to go to the movies. But they went to see a movie years ago, and the name of the movie was The Prince of Tides. It's an old movie. It has Barbra Streisand and Nick Nolte in it. And in the movie is about Nick Nolte, who's a married man, who has an affair with Barbra Streisand, who's a psychiatrist. And toward the end of the movie, Nick Nolte tells Barbra Streisand that he's breaking off the relationship. He's going to go back to his wife, and he's going to work on his marriage and make his marriage work. Well, Mark and Sunny had gone to the movie, and when it came to that point in the movie, Barbra Streisand starts to cry and to sob because her heart is broken because this man she loves is going back to his wife. And what Nick Nolte does in the movie is he goes over and he picks her up and carries her to a rocking chair, and he begins to rock her. And he rocks her in his arms all night long while she cries and grieves for the loss of the relationship. Well, there was hardly a dry eye in the movie theater, and Sunny starts to cry. And she starts to cry so hard she can't stop because her heart was already broken before she went to the movie, just so disappointed in her marriage and in her husband. And when the lights came up, the movie ended, the lights came up, she was still crying, but she couldn't even talk. But on the way home, the only thing she said to Mark was, "I can never remember being touched as a child. I don't ever remember anyone touching me, anyone rocking me." And Mark knows and knew Sunny's parents. And she was their only daughter. And in all the years they'd been married, at the time it was 15 years, he had never seen them hug her or touch her or be affectionate with her. So he really knew she was telling the truth. But that night when she went home, she decided that one more time she would try to get Mark to love her in the way she wanted to be loved. So she went downstairs to her computer and she wrote a movie script. She wrote out a script like these women in the back that had the 9 steps of the perfect date. You know, nothing wrong with this. She wrote out a script of exactly what she wanted her husband to do to show her that he loved her. She wrote it out, went to bed. The next morning, when she got up, she said to him, I wrote a script for us, and I want you to be my leading man. I want you to show me love in the way I have written, exactly as I have written it. Well, Mark was sort of dumbstruck because on the one hand, he really, really wanted to please her. But on the other hand, he had had almost 15 years history saying he was not going to be able to please her. So he felt sort of caught. But she handed him the script. He read the script, and later she said that he read it so quickly she wondered if he'd even read it. He read the script, and he immediately went over to her, picked her up, and started carrying her down the stairs to the Boston Rocker in their family room. Now, what's surprising is that even though she'd written the script and told him she wanted him to do it, when he picked her up, guess what? She said, oh, no, not now. I'm too heavy. You know, you'll hurt yourself. You know, nope. She had asked him, and he was not taking no for an answer. He carried her down to the family room. He sat down in the rocking chair, and he began to rock. And as he rocked, he began to sing. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. Well, you can imagine how touching that was for Sonny. And she had asked him to do it every week, once a week. So the next Saturday night, sure enough, he picked her up, carried her downstairs, rocked her in the rocking chair, and sang to her. Following Saturday night, same thing. But the week after that, they were visiting Mark's parents. So he didn't do it while he was visiting the parents, you know. And then, of course, when they came home, they were sort of out of the habit. And he didn't do it the next Saturday or the next Saturday or the next Saturday. And he didn't do it again until one night the phone rang about 11 o'clock at night. And Sonny picks up the phone, and it was the nursing home calling and saying, I'm sorry to tell you that your mother has died. And she put down the phone and she said to Mark, my mother has just died. And without a word, Mark walked over to her, picked her up, carried her downstairs, began to rock, and began to sing, You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. Well, Sonny began to cry. And she cried and she cried. She cried for the loss of her mother. She cried for all the years of missing the love of her mother, till finally it felt like her heart was empty. And then her heart began to fill with the love of this man who had been mother, father, lover, and husband to her for 15 years. And this is a true story with a happy ending, because this coming spring, Sonny and Mark will celebrate their 50th wedding anniversary. 50th wedding anniversary. And there was a time when it was so stressful in that marriage. So paying attention and remembering is a key. And don't be afraid to ask for what you want. You know, I love the women who made a list of 9 items for one restaurant scene. I love that. Because you know why? When you ask for something, you ought to make it so specific that if you wrote it down, a stranger could pick it up and follow your instructions. But so often we have that old message to say, don't ask for anything. It's not okay to ask. Or what couples often say is, well, if you loved me, you would know what I want. It doesn't work that way. See, what happens under the influence of infatuation, doesn't matter what they give you, you like it, you know? But once that wears off, then it needs to be more specific. So step 1 in becoming a soulmate is paying attention.
Take a seat.